What is up, everyone? Happy Football Friday. Happy 4th of July weekend. Hope everyone had a good 4th yesterday. Today, we actually have some news for once. Just me, though, so it's going to be pretty quick. We are previewing the AFC East division this week. Really interesting stuff when you look at what this division has to hold and what we saw last year from them. But first off, let's get started with college football news. Utah State, they are in the midst of firing head coach Blake Anderson for non-compliance of Title IX policies. And that stems from apparently not reporting sexual assault activity. I would guess in the football program, there was an external investigation that the university had, and this is what they found. So, defense coordinator Nate Dreeling will be the interim head coach for the 2024 season. So it's going to be a tough one. Utah State wasn't going to be that great anyways. Couple bad years there. But, the Aggies moving forward with interim head coach Nate Dreeling this year. NFL news. Free agent safety Tashawn Gibson was suspended by the league for the first 6 games of the 24 season for violation of performance-enhancing substances policy, essentially PEDs. Was with the 49ers the last couple of years, but like I said, still a free agent currently. We'll see if he gets picked up down the line in training camp. Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott, he was in the news this week, had a walking boot on in a couple pictures that surfaced on social media. He suffered a minor right foot sprain. Again, minor, so probably not going to hinder his performance in training camp or whatnot. So looks to be okay and nothing major there. Extensions, we had an extension go down. The Patriots getting a contract done, signing linebacker Jelani Tavai to a 3-year, $15 million extension, $21 million max value there. Really solid deal for both sides, I think. Tavai has been a player that has really been a mainstay for the New England defense, and questionable pick by Detroit, I believe, or by New England, I think originally went to Detroit and now back in New England the last couple of seasons. But yeah, I think it's a good deal for both sides value-wise, and Tavai gets to stay in New England for the foreseeable future. One signing also occurred. The Rams, they re-signed safety John Johnson III, retaining him to continue his second tour of duty in LA. Was drafted by the Rams and spent a couple of years with the Browns, and then went back to LA last season. So John Johnson back in LA once again. And that is all the news. So let's roll into the AFC East preview here. We're going to start off with the defending AFC East champs, the Buffalo Bills. So in the offseason, their main losses in both free agency, trades, and whatnot. Quarterback Kyle Allen went to the Steelers. Running back Nyheim Hines went to the Browns. They traded wide receiver Stephon Diggs to the Texans. Wide receiver Gabriel Davis went to the Jags. So did center Mitch Morse. They traded guard Ryan Bates to the Bears. Defense tackle Jordan Phillips went to the Giants. Edge rusher Leonard Floyd went to the 49ers. Corners Dane Jackson and Tre'Davious White going to the Panthers and the Rams, respectively. And safety Jordan Poyer flipping intra-divisionally and going to the Dolphins. The Bills did add a bunch, though, on the lower level side of things with being so close to the salary cap. There wasn't a lot of room to maneuver. But additions for Buffalo, Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Mitchell Trubisky, Commanders wide receiver Curtis Samuel, Chiefs wide receiver Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Dolphins wide receiver Chase Claypool, Falcons wide receiver Mac Hollins. They drafted wide receiver Keon Coleman with their first selection this year, 33rd overall in the second round. They got Cowboys offensive lineman Lyle Collins, Chargers defensive tackle Austin Johnson, Panthers defensive tackle Deshaun Williams, Jaguars edge rusher Dwayne Smoot, Commanders edge rusher Casey Toohill, Eagles linebacker Nicholas Morrow, Chiefs safety Mike Edwards, and they also drafted safety Cole Bishop in the second round, 60th overall. Those two, him and Coleman, they're key draft selections. I didn't think a lot of the other ones will make a big impact in the 24 season, which is what we're focusing on right now. So, yeah, it was a pretty good offseason. I didn't like the trade of Stephon Diggs, especially for as little value as what they got and as much value as they paid for him. Obviously, he's much older now. They have to pay AJ Epinesa coming up, but I didn't think they needed to lose Leonard Floyd. I thought the corner losses as well was tough. The secondary overall with Poyer, White, and Jackson all gone. Tre'Davious White, I did not think was going to command a lot of money on the open market after coming off an ACL. So I thought they might have been able to retain him. Additions, though, I really didn't like a ton of their additions. The draft picks were probably my favorite ones with Keon Coleman and Cole Bishop. Lyle Collins has been a solid player for most of his career. And a lot of the other guys are replacement level players, especially they went with quantity at the wide receiver position versus quality. I do like Curtis Samuel, but MVS, Claypool, Hollins, they don't really move the needle for me. And then the edge rush, Smoot is a underrated player, I think. But other than that, I wasn't very sold on the Bills' additions. And I think overall, the roster is in a tough position. GM Brandon Beane has a difficult job these next couple of seasons keeping the Bills competitive while trying to pay their top players big money with Josh Allen's contract on the books now. And they still do have a solid core, I think. But the additions, I don't necessarily think – I think they lost more than they gained for sure. Going into the schedule here, we look at week 1. They are hosting the Cardinals. Week 2 at the Dolphins on Thursday night. Week 3 at home against the Jags on Monday Night Football. Week 4 at the Ravens on Sunday night. Week 5 at the Texans. Week 6 at the Jets on Monday night. 7 is at home against the Titans. 8 is at the Seahawks. 9 is at home against the Dolphins. At the Colts in Week 10. Week 11, they host the Chiefs. Week 12 bye, so relatively late there. Week 13 is a home game against the 49ers on Sunday night. At the Rams in Week 14. At the Lions Week 15. At home against the Patriots in 16. At home against the Jets in 17. And then Week 18, they end up in New England. It's going to be this is one of the toughest schedules I have seen. Obviously, this is our first division, but I think the Bills are going to struggle mightily without the offensive firepower that they had previously with Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs gone from the wide receiver position. I think they're going to have to run a lot more 12 personnel, getting Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox on the field, probably two of their best pass catchers that they have now with the losses at the receiver position. And that stretch in the beginning of the season is horrendous. I think they can win against the Cardinals, but it's tough to find a win in weeks 2 through 6. At the Dolphins on Thursday, at home against the Jags on Monday, at the Ravens on Sunday, at the Texans, at the Jets on Monday. It's rough. And then at the end of the season, it's not great after the bye either. At home against the 49ers on Sunday Night Football. Even before the bye, right before the bye, they have to host the Chiefs. Then they have a bye. Then they host the 49ers on Sunday night. They're at the Rams and then at the Lions. I mean, it does not get easier in the back half of this schedule for the Bills. Then when you add in the divisional games with the Dolphins and the Jets, not including the Patriots, because I do not think they're going to be competitive enough to beat any of the three divisional opponents this year. So that leads Jimmy and I, record-wise, to a tough reality for Buffalo this year. Regardless of whether they have Josh Allen, I just do not think this roster can win enough games. And I think the Bills miss the playoffs. I have them going 8-9. Jimmy is a little more bullish, 9-8 for them. So possibly they can sneak in the 7 seed there, like the Steelers did at 9-8 last year. But I think it's going to be very difficult for Buffalo, given what the schedule is. There's a lot of movement also in terms of time of games with the 4 primetime games in the first half of the season. And again, it's just the toughness of the schedule. And even when you take out the games that I said before, games that I didn't mention that potentially could be issues as well. At Seattle, that's a long trip from Buffalo to Seattle. At the Colts, not a long trip, but who knows? The Colts were competitive with Anthony Richardson early in the year before he got injured last season. Year 2, he's got a full offseason, upgraded weapons as well. Who knows? The Colts might be very good. And I think the only games I didn't talk about was the Titans and the Cardinals and the Patriots games. I kind of already alluded to the Patriots ones, but the Titans and the Cardinals, I think Buffalo can beat those teams. Buffalo has the power to beat those teams. They're both in Buffalo, so I don't see those games being issues. Moving on to the Dolphins here. The Dolphins, 11-6 last year, tying Buffalo, but losing week 18 in Miami to relinquish the division to the Bills. They got the number 6 seed, the wild card, and lost to the Chiefs in the first round. I am high on this team again. I do like the Dolphins. I think it was sort of like Buffalo. They lost a bunch in free agency. But I do still think this is a solid roster, and they have what Buffalo doesn't, and that is firepower. They still have their weapons on offense, and I think they can do a lot with that, just like they did last season before the injuries crept up. So losses-wise, wide receiver Cedric Wilson went to the Saints, wide receiver Chase Claypool to the Bills, guard Robert Hunt to the Panthers, defensive tackle Christian Wilkins to the Raiders, defensive tackle Raekwon Davis to the Colts, edge rusher Andrew Van Ginkel to the Vikings, linebacker Jerome Baker to the Seahawks, safety Brandon Jones to the Broncos, and safety Deshaun Elliott to the Steelers. Additions-wise, tight end Jack Driscoll from the Eagles, offensive tackle Patrick Paul, drafted in the second round, 55th overall, defensive tackle Calais Campbell from the Falcons, defensive tackle Neville Gallimore from the Cowboys, defensive tackle Taylor Tart from the Texans, edge rusher Chop Robinson. They drafted him in the first round, 21st overall. They got edge rusher Mohamed Kamara, drafted him in the 5th round, number 158 overall. Linebacker Anthony Walker Jr. from the Browns. Linebacker Jordan Brooks from the Seahawks. Safety Jordan Poyer from the Bills. And safety Marcus May from the Saints. I really like what the Dolphins did. It was very difficult to let Christian Wilkins go, Robert Hunt go as well. I don't think the rest of the defensive losses were as big of a deal. Now, I do like the players. Van Ginkel, excellent motor guy on the defense, can play linebacker, can play edge. Baker, I thought, was a like-for-like switch, given him and Jordan Brooks essentially got traded for each other. Brandon Jones, underrated safety, but I don't think they're going to miss him with the safety additions of Poyer and May that they got. So overall, I think they're the opposite of the Bills. I do think they had more additions than losses. I think they were a net plus. Poyer, while he is a little bit on the older side, I love that on the back end. Him and Javon Holland are going to pair together very well. I like the young edge rushers that they got in the draft. They're going to need those guys to step up early on in the season with Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb coming off major injuries last year. They also signed Shaquille Barrett from the Bucks in the offseason as well. And the Calais Campbell one late a couple weeks ago is awesome. I think he's going to have a big impact even at the ripe old age. I think he's turning 39 this year. I still think he can get it done. 6.5 sacks last year for the Falcons in a rotational role. So I like that addition as well. Taylor Tart is on the older side as well, but he's been a beast. He's going to play nose tackle for him. So, yeah, I like the additions that they got. I don't think they lost a ton, even though Van Ginkel, Wilkins, and Hunt were the big losses there in value and name-wise. Going to the schedule here for Miami. At home against the Jags week 1. At home against the Bills on Thursday night, week 2. Week 3 is at the Seahawks. Week 4, they are at home against the Titans on Monday night. At the Patriots, bye week 6. So nice early bye for the Dolphins. I think I'm hoping that doesn't hinder them like it did last year where they had all those injuries in the second half of the season, really cut their offense in half. At the Colts coming out of the bye in week 7, at home against the Cardinals. Then they go to Buffalo, to LA to face the Rams on Monday night. They're at home against the Raiders and the Patriots. Then they go to Green Bay for a Thursday night game. Big one there. We'll see if it's cold enough in Lambeau for the Dolphins yet. Can't be any colder than the Chiefs game they played in the playoffs. At home against the Jets in week 14, they go to Houston in week 15, at home against San Fran in 16. Week 17, they're at the Browns on Sunday Night Football, and then at the Jets to finish it out in week 18. And look, I think it's a much easier schedule. Now, the AFC East overall, I didn't mention this with the Bills schedule, the AFC East overall has a difficult path. They have to face the AFC South, which now features a loaded Texans team. We know the Jags are good. We don't really know what the Titans are going to be under new head coach Brian Callahan. And the Colts, we really didn't get to see a full season of Anthony Richardson last year. He has upgraded weapons, and we will see if he can last the entire season this year and see what they can be with him at the helm. They also have to play the NFC West. There you have the the annual Super Bowl contenders in the Niners. You have the Rams, who have been really good the last couple of seasons. The Cardinals are the question mark, I think. Year 2, Jonathan Gannon there. Kyler Murray has some upgraded weapons, Marvin Harrison Jr. and co. So we don't really know what they're going to be like. And then the Seahawks are always a contender as well to get into the playoffs with Geno Smith and now new head coach Mike McDonald out there. So those are 2 tough divisions. And then the cross-division games that they have to play the NFC North. And it really hurts the Dolphins and the Bills. The Bills have to play the Lions, the Dolphins playing the Packers. And then, the AFC North as well as their other cross-division is their second cross-division. So the Bills got to play the Ravens. The Dolphins, luckily for them, they get the Browns. I say luckily, we never know. Maybe the Browns finally break through with Deshaun Watson this year. Who knows? And then they also have to play the AFC West. So the Bills get killed once again on that. The Chiefs, they have to play them. The the Dolphins. Get the Raiders, which I don't have an issue with for Miami. We are flipped on this one, Jimmy and I. I like Miami going 12-5. I really enjoyed the early season schedule. I have them starting 7-0 going into Buffalo week 9. Then they lose 2 back-to-back. I think they're going to lose in Buffalo and in LA to the Rams. But then they win 2 against the Raiders and the Patriots. They lose in Green Bay. They beat the Jets at home. They lose in Houston. They lose to San Fran. They beat the Browns, and then they lose in New York to the Jets in week 18. I think I had 5 losses there. Yeah, sure. Anyways, I like 12-5 for the Dolphins, 11-6 for Jimmy in terms of Miami's record there. Let's go to the team that finished 3rd last year in the AFC East, the Jets. I know a lot of my friends will be intrigued to listen to this one. So here we go. Losses in the offseason. They traded quarterback Zach Wilson to the Broncos. They lost tight end CJ Uzomah to the Eagles, offensive tackle Mekhi Becton to the Eagles, defensive tackle Quentin Jefferson went to the Browns. Edge rusher Bryce Huff to the Eagles. Edge rusher John Franklin Myers, they traded to the Broncos. Corner Bryce Hall went to the Bucks, as did safety Jordan Whitehead. Additions-wise, the Jets were very busy this offseason. Got quarterback Tyrod Taylor from the Giants. Quarterback Jordan Travis, they drafted him in the 5th round, 171st overall. Running back Tariq Cohen comes over from the Panthers. Wide receiver Mike Williams from the Chargers. They drafted wide receiver Malachi Corley in the 3rd round, 65th overall. Offensive tackle Tyron Smith from the Cowboys. They traded for offensive tackle Morgan Moses from the Ravens. They drafted offensive tackle Olu Fashanu in the 1st round, 11th overall. They got guard John Simpson from the Ravens. Defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw from the 49ers. Edge rusher Hassan Reddick they traded for from the Eagles. And they got corner Isaiah Oliver from the 49ers. So I think it was a very fruitful offseason in East Rutherford there. They also signed they got a lot of players. And I like it. I like the line moves that they made. John Simpson, Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, Olu Fashanu. I think all 4 were excellent moves by GM Joe Douglas. The defensive additions I wasn't sold on. Switching Bryce Huff for Hassan Reddick. Who knows if that's going to work out or not. Might cost the Jets a 2nd-round pick. The Mike Williams one I thought was awesome. I wanted the Panthers badly to sign Mike Williams, but he decided to go to the Jets. Him, Garrett Wilson will be awesome pairing outside there. What I didn't like was the CJ Uzomah loss. They really don't have a lot at tight end. Obviously, Jeremy Ruckert has not done anything in his first 2 seasons. So will we finally see a year 3 uptick from Ruckert? Who knows? He was a really good player coming out of Ohio State when they drafted him in the 3rd round in 2022. I know our guy Chris Cherry was excited about him when he got drafted, but has not done much. They still have Tyler Conklin at that position. That's why they were linked to Brock Bowers a lot this offseason in the draft. I don't really think they lost a ton, though. Other than the Bryce Huff thing, not really a ton of losses. Value-wise, I thought they had a lot of added value this season, and they got the veteran backup that I think A-Rod likes in Tyrod Taylor there. So, going to the schedule for the Jets at the 49ers on Monday night, at the Titans week 2, at home against the Patriots on Thursday night, at home against the Broncos. They go to London. They are the away team at the Vikings in London. At home against the Bills on Monday Night Football. At the Steelers on Sunday night. At the Patriots. At home against the Texans on Thursday night. At the Cardinals. At home against the Colts on Sunday night. By week 12, also a little late, just like the Bills. At home against the Seahawks, at the Dolphins, at the Jags, at home against the Rams, at the Bills, and then at home against the Dolphins. I think it's a good season. I think just like I talked about, they're going to be tough games. They're going to lose week 1 at San Fran. I just do not see them winning that one. It's on Monday night, prime time. Give them the loss on that one. But then they go on a good run. They win 5 in a row, I think. Or no, they win 4 in a row, yeah. To get to 4-1 coming back from London. They lose at home against the Bills on Monday, but it's not a big deal. They win the next 2. I do have them losing against the Texans on Thursday night. I think Texans are a really good team. At the Cardinals, they win. They beat the Colts on Sunday night. They go into the bye. Then they have a tough schedule at the end. At home against the Seahawks, I think they can win that one. It's at home. They lose 4 straight, actually, at the end there. They lose 4 of the last 5. At the Dolphins, at the Jags, at home against the Rams, at Buffalo. And then they win at home against Miami. So I do think they're going to do good. 11-6 for me. I'm way higher than Jimmy. He has them finishing in 3rd place, 8-9, behind the Dolphins and the Bills. So yeah, I like the Jets. I'm buying into the Aaron Rodgers hype. I like what they've done to protect him. I like what they've done to get him some weapons. And as long as the defense can continue to be stout under Robert Saleh, I think they're going to win some games this year with the schedule that they have. And finally, on to the Patriots. 4-13 last year. Well, I can tell you from my view here, it does not get better, Patriots fans. Sorry. Losses. They traded quarterback Mac Jones to the Jags. Running back Ezekiel Elliott went to the Cowboys. Tight end Mike Gesicki and offensive tackle Trent Brown went to the Bengals. Linebacker Mac Wilson went to the Cardinals, and safety Jalen Mills went to the Giants. They really didn't add a ton. They didn't lose a ton. They really didn't add a ton of quality anyways. They signed quarterback Jacoby Brissett from the Commanders. They drafted quarterback Drake May 3rd overall. Signed running back Antonio Gibson from the Commanders. Wide receiver KJ Osborne from the Vikings. They drafted 2 wideouts as well. Wide receiver Jalen Polk in the 2nd round, 37th overall. Wide receiver Javon Baker, 4th round, 110th overall. They signed tight end Austin Hooper from the Raiders. They drafted tight end Jaheim Bell in the 7th round, 231st overall. They signed offensive tackle Chukwuma Okorafor from the Steelers. Offensive tackle Caden Wallace, they drafted him in the 3rd round, 68th overall. Linebacker Sione Takitaki, they got from the Browns, and they signed kicker Joey Sly from the Jags. So again, I think this is a tough team to predict. The defense is going to be there. I think, Christian Gonzalez is coming back from an injury. They have some pieces. Matthew Judon also coming back from a major injury. So I think defensively, they're going to play. They're going to play good defense under new head coach Jerod Mayo. It's just the offensive production. I'm not sure where that's going to come from. Jacoby Brissett's probably going to start the season, but how long will his leash be, and how long will it take for the fans to start clamoring for Drake May? I don't know. But I do think they added more than they lost for sure. The Trent Brown loss was huge. Not sure how they're going to replace him. Chuck Okorafor was okay in Pittsburgh, but I think they're going to want Caden Wallace to play relatively early, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does. My Penn State boy there. But yeah, my New England-wise schedule here at the Bengals, at home against the Seahawks. They get screwed on that AFC North. At the Bengals, they get the Bengals because the Bengals lost Joe Burrow early. They get the Bears as well in the NFC North team. So that's not very nice. And then the AFC West team they have to play is the Chargers. So it's not very great. But yeah, at the Bengals, week 1, They go to Seattle, at the Jets on Thursday night, at the 49ers, at home against the Dolphins, at home against the Texans, at the Jags in London, at home against the Jets, at the Titans, at the Bears, at home against the Rams, at the Dolphins, at home against the Colts. Week 14 bye, very, very late. So it's going to be tough. I would think if they're not doing well after London, I would not be surprised if Drake May starts week 8 at home against the Jets. It's a nice home game, 1:00 start probably, and that's probably when the earliest I could see Drake May getting in, unless there's an injury. Week 15, they go to Arizona. They're at Buffalo in week 16, at home against the Chargers in week 17, and then at home against the Bills in week 18. So I just do not see this team winning a lot of games. I kind of picked out 3 or 4 that they could win. I had 3-14 as my record. Jimmy likes it a little bit better, 5-12. I just don't think the offense is going to be there. The defense is going to keep him in a lot of games, but you can only play so much defense when you're on the field 24/7. So I think 3-14 for me, 1 loss worse than they were last year. The games that I could see them winning in Tennessee, that's one. At Chicago, potentially. And then at the Cardinals. And then at home against the Colts. I think those are the 4. Those are the 4 that they have a chance. Who knows? Maybe they win. Maybe they win a division game. I just don't see it. I think they're miles behind the other 3 teams in the division, especially the Dolphins and the Jets. But, yeah, very, very poor record. They're going to finish 4th in the division. So, in terms of overall here, Jimmy and I both have the Miami Dolphins winning the AFC East this year. I have them at 12-5. He has them at 11-6. Jimmy and I differ, though, on the second place team. He has the Bills in second at 9-8, maybe squeaking in for a wild card there. I have the Jets at 11-6 in my second place. I think they're going to get the top wild card, number 5. In third place, Jimmy has the Jets at 8-9. I have the Bills at 8-9. And then we both have the Patriots in last. Jimmy, 5-12 for New England. I have them a paltry 3-14. And that is the show for today. Thank you all for watching. Next week, we'll be back talking training camp week 2, AFC South season preview. We're going to do the AFC North on Monday. Super exciting time, guys. We are in July. We are getting closer and closer to training camp starting up. And before you know it, the football season will be here. So thank you. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast on Instagram and X. FAApodcast.com is our website. You can check us out here on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Instagram, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. And we will see y'all back on Monday.